Welcome to Align to Your Design. I'm your host, Beth Davis. Isn't it time to wrap your business around your purpose and bring your greatest work to the world? Each week, join me as we explore various biometric tools such as human design and hand analysis and how to use them to fulfill your destiny and align to your design. We will reveal how to do the work you are designed to do rather than what you think you should do. Hey everyone, happy summer. Welcome to the Align to Your Design podcast. I know it's been a while since we've had a new episode, and I'm back. I had some health issues, but yes, they're finally getting resolved. And that's a whole long human design discussion. I probably should do an episode around, all the idiotic things people say to you when you're dealing with health issues and all the ways that people are wrong about why you're going through those health issues and what they really mean to you and your design. Might be your diet, but probably not your diet. It's the least of it. Yeah. So we'll do an episode about that. Anyway, happy summer. Now, today, my guest is going to share with you about what it means to be a man who's on purpose. Because let's face it, if you go to any of these self-discovery groups, workshop, even one-to-one coaching, it's mostly women showing up. And occasionally you'll see couples workshops where there's equal men and women. And those are intentionally couples workshops. And in those instances, who do you think is the one driving getting there? In most instances, I'd say 95% of the time, right? The women. So we have a problem, Houston, don't we? Because everybody needs to grow. Men and women need to evolve. To my mind, the entire purpose of incarnating in the 3D in a physical body is to have an experience of pleasure, of delight, of wonder in this incredible playground that exists for us. And in that process, evolve our consciousness, become more awake, more enlightened, more yourself. So I'm going to tell you about our guest today. He's a very interesting man with a really incredible story. And he has deep, deep wisdom to share about how you as a woman can better support your man and encourage him in the direction of healing. And if you're a man listening to this, how you can have more soul fulfillment in your life. And it means being willing to face yourself and not stick your head in the sand anymore. No more running, because we are living right now in an energy, i.e. the transits, i.e. the solar system, that will kick your mother loving ass if you don't get your shit together. And I am not joking. There's no nudge room anymore for your addictions and your bullshit. You're going to get your ass kicked, and there's a better way. Because I don't know about you, but I don't like getting my ass kicked. It's not fun. And I like having fun. I like laughing. I like eating good food and being with people I love and enjoying life. I don't know about you. And you can't enjoy life when you're riddled with trauma and you're cut off from your purpose. It's just not happening. So let me tell you about our guest today, because he's going to help you with all that. All right. Our guest today, Jeffery Davis, grew up on the Jersey Shore, where I now live. He has always been fascinated by and a student of human behavior. Beginning his career in corporate America, Jeffery worked in top advertising agencies in the world, where this human behavior was studied and used to launch brands and instigate purchases. Although he had a wonderful life by most of society's metrics, something felt off. Things changed when he got a clear message that he was looking at life upside down, and his heart was the CEO, while the brain was the personal assistant for handling details. Very nice. Let me read that again to all of you, because I like it. His heart was the CEO, while the brain was the personal assistant for handling details. Yes, yes, yes. Jeffery left the business world to follow his heart toward acting, creativity, expression, and a deeper understanding of self. This shift changed everything for him, and Jeffery felt a call to help men on a similar journey back to their heart. He now coaches entrepreneurs, visionaries, and professionals to help them reignite their lives with authenticity and passion. And with that, let us bring to Align to Your Design, Jeffery Davis. No relation, but we're probably related somehow. Hi.
How are you?
Good. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here.
Jeffery, tell me and our audience, what is the number one issue you see with your male clients or prospective male clients in embracing the healing path? Like, what is it that they're really resistant to?
It's interesting. We, as men, live in a society where we're told and trained not to look at our feelings. And so we have no vocabulary around it. And so it's really scary to actually dive in and then articulate it. Where does that begin? Right. So there's a feeling of vulnerability and exposure that is not been done before and been avoided. And on some level, society has rewarded them very well with money and titles and fame or accomplishment by staying in their heads and not addressing that. And so the resistance comes from that. It's, I'll figure it out. I figure everything out. I'm going to stay up here, but the game is actually down here. And so that's what the major resistance is. It's something new and highly vulnerable and not having the articulation around how to express what's going on or how to express how to get through it.
Wow. That's such a simple, pure, and mind-blowing answer. They just don't, you guys didn't have the language for it. So how could you?
Right.
No one even taught you how. In fact, you were taught the opposite.
Exactly. And from an early age, girls and women have been talking about their feelings, right?
Yeah,
and men never have. So there's no articulation. And I know when I first started this work, I actually felt like I was going to explode. I felt like I was just going to blow up into a million pieces because there was just so much pressure underneath and so much hidden, which, at the end of the day, it's really, we're just human, but it was just so hidden and so much pressure behind it that I just didn't know what to do or how to do it. And I felt like if I was to expose myself, that I would literally just come apart, which I did. And then I came back together.
So tell us about what your coming apart looked like. What did coming apart look like for you?
It it had a lot of different pieces to it. On an emotional level. As a man, you could probably check very few boxes of when I cried, right? Somebody close to me died, I lost somebody close to me or something, there were a handful of instances. And so the feelings just started coming up and I let them come up and I just started allowing myself to cry whenever that happened, just like I would allow myself to laugh whenever that would happen, right? It's just another feeling, but we were so afraid of it. So literally there were years and years of tears that just came out over the course of a couple months. And if I was driving down the road and it was just started happening, okay, that's what's happening. That's what I'm feeling. And so I just started to allow myself to crack open. And that was the first piece. The second piece was really starting to look at what my life was built around in terms of what my values were and my behavior that reflected that and what I wanted to create moving forward. And I had a really unique experience around that. So when I was meditating, and I saw a picture of my niece moving around in front of me in my mind's eye. And it's interesting. Before this, I had always kind of thought, why don't I have a vision? I can never see in my mind's eye. And people always had this vision that changed their life and da-da-da. And meanwhile, I had one, right? So I'm meditating and I had this vision of my niece playing in front of me. And I'm like, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden I hear my brother next to me and he said, what are you doing? And I looked and I was an observer of this experience. And so I said, I've decided to actively participate. And I woke up and I was like, oh my God, that's life-changing. That phrase is life-changing. So I wrote that down and all of these things started flowing through me. And then I started looking at what's my value set. And I'd like to say it was beautifully, laid out, but I had kind of a Family Feud visual of it. And the top one was freedom. And somewhere down there was connection. So I moved connection to the top and I energetically felt for the first time a deep loneliness, right? Because my life was not geared towards connection at the top. My communication, my behavior, nothing about my life was built as that being the top value. So I had an experience of having that as a value and not living that as a value and the distance between those two. And then looking at how do you create that, which was life-changing, because when you start to evaluate and look at what are your current values and what do you want them to be and who do you want to be in the world, which is one of the most difficult questions to answer. Who am I and what do I stand for? Most people will answer, I'm an accountant or I'm this or that. but like, who are you and what do you stand for? And that's a very thoughtful, deep question to answer.
Wow. Wow. So many things are going through my mind right now. I read something recently that said, I think it was in Psychology Today, and it said something along the lines of men don't do anything for the person they love. They just align to their value. And I was thinking about how different that is from women. Like from speaking for myself, like I feel like almost like a string attached to the people I love and a desire to just give my affection to them. But there's not really a value system around it. It's just love them. I mean, I suppose if I dug in, I'd find the value system. But I'm wondering if that seems like a truth. There's some truth in that, just from what you're stating, that you shifted your values. And it was that shifting of putting connection at a higher premium than freedom that shifted things for you. So what were some of the highlights once you made connection primary?
Then everything changed. I mean, literally everything changed in terms of how I communicated. It was less about what do you do and who are you. So my conversation with anybody changed. And what was fascinating was I became a space where people could step in and drop the tension of where they are. And I started having people around me, random people, crying in the course of a short conversation, whether it was a 80-year-old man next in line at Best Buy, we're talking for a minute and a half and tears are coming down his eyes as he goes to the cashier. It was just over and over. And I had space for that, right? And when I started looking at, what's even underneath of a value of connection, it's about being love. Right. And when somebody is in a place of love and they're truly committed to that, and you can feel that relax your nervous system.
Right.
You can feel the impact of that, right? The tension just goes
down.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, so how did this evolve into the work you now do with men? Will you share a bit about how this awakening in you led to I'm imagining, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm imagining it led to some kind of decision to be of service in a different way. So how did that happen?
Yeah, it was twofold. One was I had come from a corporate background. And so I had lived my life as a man in my head, being successful and being this person. And so I knew that path. On some level, I left a breadcrumb path to be able to help people from there to travel the longest distance of their lives and the shortest distance in physicality, which is from your head to your heart, right? It's a life-changing journey, but it's very short and not simple. So that's what I knew I wanted to do, but I've always been a supporter of strong women, and I really wanted to support women. And initially my thought was, well, I can coach women. That just makes sense. But that was I started to step into that, and I took a breath, and when I took a moment, I felt the best way that I could serve women was actually to work with men. And so that's what I started to do. And I could relate to it. I could relate to the experience, and I knew the power of what that work would do. And what I'm really interested in doing is making personal development work for men cool again. Not that it's cool, but
I don't think it's ever been cool. I think you may be the person to actually let people know that it exists. Never mind. It's cool.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Make it popular. Will you tell us a bit about the sort of psychographic demographic of the kind of guy that is drawn to you, and maybe as second part to this, part two of this line of questioning is what happens for him where he realizes, oh, I need Jeffrey's help. I need help. So who is the guy typically that then realizes he needs help?
Right. So they are high performing individuals. So I've worked with Olympic athletes. I've worked with producers and also speakers and coaches and people who are making a difference in the world, entrepreneurs and people who have gotten to a place externally where things look great.
Yeah.
And they're happy, but they're not fulfilled. Completely different story.
Yeah.
Right. Like you've kind of covered off all of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, except for self-actualization. Right.
Right.
And the all of the skills that get you up to that last level are not the skills that get you through that last level.
Right.
So it's a
Yes.
completely different way of approaching that last step inside.
You know, it was reported right before he died. He said something like, I made a mistake. The person was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, self-actualization just ends up being selfish. After that, you have to transcend.
Right.
Right. And transcendence is then paying it forward, which is what you're doing. So I have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
So the person realizes I'm happy but not fulfilled. I'm in the process of self-actualizing and it's not enough. What actually drives the man to then pull out his credit card and say, Jeffrey, I want to work with you. I'm ready to do this. Like, is there a critical moment in his life? Is there a marriage falling apart, or he just got laid off, or like, what is it that typically instigates the individual to realize I can't do this alone? I've reached the end of what I can do alone.
Right. So you're right. So there are things that are falling apart externally, and then also the emptiness internally. So externally, they've sacrificed relationship. They may be married. They may not have the relationship in,
Right.
and they're feeling tension there. Either they're feeling it or they're experiencing it, right? It's being vocalized to them. And they're also having that disconnection from family, from their kids. They're also experiencing health issues. Where NPR said 750,000 people are dying because they're working too much. And this is a group of people who are focused, it's a hustle culture, right?
Right.
And they're focused on external validation. It's money, power, fame, validation. And that's all what society says is success. But they've never written their own script. They're operating on an old operating system that got them there. And they need to create their operating system, which is internally soul aligned operating system. And that's where fulfillment is. And so, so there's different levels of disarray and pain that they're in, and they feel like they're the cost of the next level of success is more than it ever has been.
So what is the cost?
It's divorce, it's health issues, it's more stress and overwhelm and a lack of fulfillment. So they can see the road ahead and they're starting to feel the pressure from it. And it's also, we're in a society, there's kind of there's a shift from a focus on ego and what as you're younger, as you're focused on ego and accomplishment to contribution and what you have to offer. And you have to shift gears. And it also is in alignment with, a certain age kind of level, and also with self-actualization. So you have to go inside to step into that next level of life.
Right.
So that you can step into service, so that you can step into a new version of yourself, so that you can step into who you are and what you have to bring to the world, and to a level of joy that you haven't really gotten before.
Will you explain in your own words what you experience as the difference between happiness and fulfillment?
Yeah. So happiness is a little bit more external, and it's interesting. So happiness is something that people tend to chase, whereas fulfillment comes from who you're being in the world. Right.
How you show up in the world, how you show up every day in your life.
Exactly. And that's reflected in your relationships. That's reflected in the work that you do. That's reflected in literally the joy that you feel because of who you are being.
Right.
And you're in alignment with who you are.
Lovely. Now you used to be, or still are, an actor. And I love that. I was a theater major in college and just still love theater. But you've said a couple of times that acting saved your life. Could you express why? How did acting save you?
Yeah, it was so interesting. So I was in San Francisco and I was in the corporate world. And it was just clear to me that the only thing that I was really coming alive in was when I was outside of work and doing little independent acting projects. So I was like, I'm just going to sell my house. I'm going to get rid of all this stuff and I'm going to go to LA and act. I mean, because that seems to be like a place
that's the place.
that's working for me,
Yeah.
the acting thing. So I go there and I stumbled in very quickly within a couple months into this class with a teacher who's best of class, Larry Moss.
Oh yeah, he's the guy. Like he's the
Yes.
LA acting coach, Larry
Oh, yeah,
Moss.
yeah.
Yeah, go. Hey,
Hilary
Larry.
Swank's like,
Is he
thank you,
still
Larry.
alive? Is
Yes,
Larry
he is.
still alive? Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
Larry. Yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah. A genius. Anyway, carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I go and I'm in his class, and he lives in New York, and he comes
Right.
to LA, and you're in a 4-day class. So you're Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, right? So I was Tuesday, Thursday, and I go to the Monday class, and I'm like, oh my God. I will like every part of my body was like, get out of here now, run out the door, because this guy has X-ray vision into who you are and where you're hiding.
Yeah.
And I immediately knew, oh my God, everything that I've hidden that I didn't want to look at is just going to be like, he's just going to dump it out. And I'll be like, what is that? And he's going to be like, no, no, no. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't even know what you're pointing at first, because I had no articulation around it. Right. And so I was petrified
Right. Right.
in front
Right.
of everybody.
Yeah.
So I said to myself, you just need to go up and say yes to whatever he says, because if you resist, he's going to destroy you.
Limb by limb.
Yes. So I went up,
Uh,
and Larry, it's fascinating, because to be an actor, you have to access yourself.
You have to be able to feel all your feelings, or else you can't express them to another.
Exactly. You have to access your body, you have to access your emotions, you have to access your energy, you have to be a human, right? You can't be an angry person unresolved and then play an angry person, because there's no depth there.
No, just
So
surface.
yeah. So I was a yes. And he was like, you need to go. I mean, his prescription for everybody was mostly the same structure and framework, but for each person within that framework is very individual. It's like everybody needs to go to therapy, everybody needs to work on the body, da da da. But when you go to therapy, you need to work on this and this and this, and you do that, 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 right? So it's
Right.
all individualized within the framework. So my head was still in business. So I was like, whatever this guy said. So that's how I shifted the frame. Whatever this guy says, for me to be successful, I'm going to do. So I was still focus, focus, focus. And then I noticed, as I started doing everything he said, that my acting got better, but my life got better.
Mm-hmm. How'd your life get better?
Well, I mean, I started to have access to me. I started to see the magic. I started to connect to people. I started to wake up. I started to really understand who I am and accept pieces. I was like, okay, so this thing that I hid, that's not so bad, and I can integrate this and I can do this. So I became a wholehearted person. And two things happened which were fascinating. One was I started to experience emotions that I had never experienced before.
Mm-hmm.
It's like parts of me started to wake
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Wow.
Like my heart started, and I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
This is so bizarre.
And it's wonderful, though, isn't it, to be able to
Yeah.
feel?
Yeah.
It's so ecstatic. Even the darkest, deepest, saddest, angriest emotions for me are ambrosia. It's like the chemical experience of being able to feel is
Right.
just freaking amazing. And there's so much information and truth in those feelings.
Oh, yeah. It's life.
It
That's,
is life.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Now I have another question for you. I just got to look at my notes. I'm blanking on it.
Well,
I
that's
want to
okay.
ask you.
While you're looking, I'm going to
Yeah.
finish the second part of
Yeah.
that.
Please finish it.
Yeah. So the second thing that I got from that was I started to get a question of what is a man, and I started to get the answer.
And what was that?
So, I thought a man was doing and all of this, but it was really a wholehearted human, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was really somebody who could do and create space, but also be fully present. And so that was life-changing. Before that, I didn't really have any kind of definition of what a man was or any kind of connection to it. And all of a sudden I was like, wow, this is what it is. I get it.
Wow. So what is your vision for the kind of impact you want to have for men and also in the world with your life, the contribution of your life?
Well, one of the things that when I was looking at my values, I was like, I looked at what do I want to leave in the world and what kind of contribution do I want to do, which actually had me shift away from acting because I started to look at the energy that was in the stories that were being told. And I felt like that wasn't really in line with where the energy I wanted to put out in the world. You know, there were too many shootings and too many bad related. It was like, that's influential.
Yes, it is.
It makes a big difference from advertising. I know how in 90 seconds, 3 commercials, you can start to influence attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs of people. So an hour and a half of a movie has a big impact. So what I did was that when I aligned that, I was like, well, how can I leave a legacy of love? How can I literally be love wherever I go? That doesn't mean, you know, I'm like, hey, go ahead, you know, let's just take all my money and stab me. That love comes with boundaries. It comes with a lot of things, right? Right. So it comes with humanity, but it comes with still being in your heart. I mean, I can still love somebody from across the street, right? So, but how I communicate with them about the fact that they need to be across the street is totally different.
So before we look at your human design, I do have one question I think is an important question. If a man comes to work with you, what does that look like? Do you have a process? And tell us about that. Tell us about.
So this is interesting. So I started really listening to my inner guidance. And I trusted 100%, never let me down, and it's like a GPS. It doesn't tell me, okay, you're going to go left, right, the whole list. It just says make a left. Okay, well, this seems kind of weird, but I'll make the left, sure. So I listen and I just do it. And it led me down to the heart of Mexico, down in San Miguel de Allende, where the city is magical and it's built on rose quartz, which is a quartz and a crystal for enhancing heart energy. So one thing that I've started to do is to work with these clients, and they come down and they work with me for 5 days down here, and it's an immersion program, and it's become transformational, really. The results that we're getting in 5 days are the same results that we've been getting over the course of several months of working and coaching. It's really fascinating. So the program is really, it's a body, mind, and spirit program. So I work with them on reconnecting into their body and then connecting into the spirit and then also into their emotions, right? So that they start to have articulation around that. So they start to feel safety around that. So they start to really embrace who they are and connect with what they truly want, what they want, not what society says they should have, because on many levels they've already done that and it doesn't really resonate.
Right. Well, I've had people say to me, well, you just be happy. I mean, you have a nice business and a good car and you're pretty. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that's all fine and good for me. And life is about fulfillment. And we find fulfillment through connection.
Yes.
It is love that keeps us together. It is love that keeps us healthy. Love is the magnet. Love is everything.
It's the answer.
It is the answer to everything.
Right. Just what's the question? I know what the answer is.
Love.
Yeah.
And once you figure that out, life becomes so much easier.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people put money before love. And if they just flip those two, they have all the money they need, because who doesn't want to be with someone who's loving to them, but not, like you said, love isn't being a doormat. That's not love. That's codependence.
Right.
Love is being an actualized person who actually, I feel like love always starts with self, right? You got to love yourself and self-respect. And only from self-love and self-respect can you then really grant that kind of spaciousness and respect to others.
For sure. Then you start to understand what it looks like and what it feels like, and what it feels like. So what it feels like to be held, what it feels like to empathize, how to connect with somebody, because you've done that to yourself.
Right. Beautiful.
And you're also not afraid to do it either. Right. That's the other thing. It's like when many men, when they're with women and their partner is saying, I feel like this, I feel like that, the man starts to say, well, I did something wrong. How do I fix it? Because I don't want you to be upset at me and da, da, da. And so they go into fix it mode instead of just being comfortable with, okay, so you feel like, yeah, I'm sure you would tell me if you feel happy. Now you're telling me you feel sad. I'm here with that. Yeah, I can be with that.
I've noticed that in my own relationships, that I would express how I was feeling or point something out, and suddenly it became a fight, or it was about, and I never knew what the hell was going on. I'm like, I'm not criticizing you. Believe me, if I was criticizing you, you would know. I'm like, I don't really enjoy criticizing people. So that's not even how I operate. I tend not to want to give any kind of unsolicited advice. My whole attitude is if you're not paying me, I'm not telling you. Like, right? If you ask me, okay. But that makes a lot of sense, because if an individual, in this case, a male person, someone who identifies as a male person, isn't in touch with their feelings, and someone comes along who's very identified or able to express their feelings, I could see how it would be perceived as criticism,
Right.
or, oh, I've done something wrong, or, oh, you're so powerful, you're making me feel this way. It's like, no, these are my feelings. And I realized, for me, my deepest pain in relationship has been not having my feelings acknowledged. And it's come up again and again and again. Even the arguments with my sister, with my mother, with friends. I'll come to them with a problem, and even the women jump in. Well, you should do this and don't think about it and just get over it. And I'm like, none of that's helpful. And so I kept trying to dig into, why am I so aggravated? I go to people for support and I just end up feeling shittier. And then I realized, oh my God, what do I want? I want someone to just say to me, oh, that must really suck. Or, gee, I can see why you'd feel sad about that.
Right.
That's it. Just acknowledge my experience, and then it can mutate and change.
Yep.
But I oftentimes am not clear on what I'm feeling. And if so, someone is present like yourself and says, Beth, wow, that was hard for you. Are you feeling sad? Yeah, I am. Yeah, that's what I'm feeling. Sad. Wow. Tell me about your sadness. What? You want to hear about my feelings? Really? You don't want to fix them or tell me to shut up? Because all my life I got, you're too much, you're too emotional, shut up. And I'm thinking, no, I'm the one bringing the cup of love, folks. I've always brought unconditional love. That's even ended relationships because the people didn't think it was real. They're like, you must have an agenda. I'm like, no, I just love you. I'm just loving you. You have an agenda because you don't trust yourself, but whatever. So I've actually realized that I bring such a force of love that most people have never experienced it.
Well,
And it's pretty trippy. Now I'm much more careful with who I share it with, because people don't believe it. They don't trust it. They don't know what to do with it. It's so overwhelming to be in the presence of I am embodied. I am in my fucking feelings. Like, I know who I am, and I'm a force of nature as a result. I shouldn't be an anomaly. I mean, when you have David Data say to you twice, Beth, who could date you? Because you're there.
Right.
You're a threat. I'm like, well, couldn't he come to the workshop? I'm going to send them all to you. They're just like, the next one goes right. No, before we date, you're going to Mexico. Why? Just go see Jeffrey. I don't want to talk about it. Just go see him, stay there for a month, work with him for 4 weeks, then come back and talk to me and see if you really want to date me. Because I am literally the emotional trigger. I'm like the match, the powder. I just blow up the powder keg walking in the room. I don't even have to say anything. And people start crying, right? They start feeling. Because when you're in the presence of aliveness, and it's often very rare in people over 50, have you noticed?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Most people just start dying. They all start dressing the same. I was at the park the other day, and all the men and women were dressed the same. They all were about 300 pounds each. They all had on the same stupid polo shirt, and they were all in their phones going, and none of them were talking to each other. They're all pasty and bloated and miserable. And I went, that's what happens when you don't feel your feeling.
Right.
That.
Yeah. And people don't see ahead, right? They don't, in some level, they see old people and they push them aside, as opposed to, that's a warning that, and also, by pushing them aside, you actually age them further too. Right. Because you exclude them from the vitality that you have, and cross-generational energy is very important. There's a wisdom there.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm having chills because you and I are so in sync. Something happened today when I was driving to find internet, which I now have. That's why I'm sitting here in my mother's house. There was a fire truck that pulled out. So we all had to pull over. And then I got behind the fire truck, and then there was a lot of traffic. And I was passing an old nursing home where I used to work and take care of brain damaged, disabled children. Wow. It was the most horrific job because I would have nightmares that the children came to life and started talking to me. That job nearly killed me. It was so heartbreaking. But now it's a nursing home. And I remember passing it, and I literally thought to myself, this was at 12:30 today, Jeffrey. I thought to myself, I could cry. We should not be putting our elders away. to die.
Yeah.
We have this nursing home industry that leaves people to Alzheimer's. And I really believe people get Alzheimer's because they're not engaged with life for the most part, unless they
Yeah.
have mercury poisoning, which is very rare. They're not engaged with life. And we must find our way back to ourselves so that we can bring the color and the light and engage our elders, because they've lived a life. They have all this wisdom and experience and humor and magic, and they're
Yes.
being left to die in the hands of strangers.
Right.
What the hell have we done? And so I know that what you're doing, and I'm so grateful to you. Sorry, it makes me so
It's
emotional.
okay.
We live in a world, for whatever reason, the powers that be have made love a crime. I mean,
Right.
look what they did to Jesus. Look what they did to Martin Luther King. You know, anyone espousing love and connection. It's like the reason is, and I think Orwell said it in his book 1984. I'm paraphrasing, but you know, the powers that be know that if we love each other, they can't control us. The banks and the governments. And when I say they, I mean whoever stands to benefit from us being atomized and isolated and cut off from one another. So anyway, I don't mean to get so emotional about it, but that's my deepest heartbreak, is just seeing millions and hundreds of millions of people lonely and heartbroken and cut off from life because the culture says you don't need love. You just need a new shiny toy. Just buy this thing and you'll be happy. And it's a lie. And you were in advertising, for God's sake. So if anyone knows, you've gone the whole gamut.
Yep. It's a total lie. And we're basically putting our elders out to pasture.
Terrible.
Right?
It's just terrible.
It's like a modern day glue farm, right?
It's horrible. We're losing all this mind share. These beautiful souls are being treated like garbage.
Right.
And so I know that the answer is what you're doing and what I'm doing, which is to awaken people to their own feeling body, to their own heart and soul, their own emotions. Because once you can feel yourself, you can respect others and love them. But there's no love for another person if you can't feel who you are.
I think the most dangerous animal on the planet is a human that's not connected to their heart.
They're predators because they want to consume what you have, because they're a bottomless pit. If you don't have self-love, you are insatiable.
Oh, yeah.
It is never enough, no matter how many countries you take over, how many women you fuck over, no matter how many, business deals you score, you never are satisfied. And it's men and women who are predators now. And these people are monsters, essentially, because they've lost the thread.
Right. They lost the plot line.
So before we wrap up here, shall we look at your chart?
That sounds great.
On a happy note, moving into like loving you, let's pull up your chart.
All right.
Yep. I know I could really go down and down, down, down. It makes me so sad. I mean, I don't live in that place, but damn, I think it's important we pay attention. All right. Do you see your chart on the screen?
I do.
All right. So what we're looking at here, I'm not even going to have any descriptors. We're just, what are we looking at here? So I'm going to do the quick down and dirty 90-second overview of what are we looking at. And then we're going to look at a few cool things that make you, genetically and energetically. Because this is basically a genetic map proven by science. That's a whole long lecture, but it's accurate. And this genetic map actually shows how energy runs in your body. Now, we are 9-centered beings. So you'll see there's 9 centers. We used to be 7-centered or 7 chakra. The 7 chakra system's out of date. I wish people would stop using it. In 1781, with the discovery of Uranus, we actually collectively mutated into 9-center beings. We're interregnum species, actually, as of 1781. And in 2027, there's a new species coming that's 11-centered. It'll be birthed through humans, but isn't human. You heard it here. When it happens, you will remember this interview. 9 mutations always happening. People are like, how could that happen? I'm like, everything's mutating all the time, folks. It's never the same. Everything's mutating towards higher consciousness. Maslow had it. You said it. We know it's true.
Right.
So this is an energy chart. So you can see here, your root is defined at the bottom. It's colored in. And what creates definition, I'm going to just show you. What I think I want to do is show how your energy runs, because it's very interesting. When you have this much openness in your chart and all these hanging gates, right? 40s hanging, 36 hanging. There's 64 possible gates. No one person can have all 64, because there's only 13 positions on the personality side, which is the day you were born. and your soul crystal came in 88 days before you were born and landed right here in what's known as the third eye. So your soul actually is molecular and it lives here. Your ego is your physical heart. There's no getting rid of the ego. The ego is what keeps you alive. It goes boom, boom, boom. Too much ego, narcissist. Not enough ego, doormat. You got to find that middle ground, but your ego is absolutely essential. So you have all this openness and all these hanging gates. So what happens with a hanging gate? Most charts have at least one or two hanging gates, if not a lot more. The hanging gates are looking for others to connect with. So the more hanging gates, the more the person needs people. The more channels a person has, the less they need people. So you do have a channel here, the 5432, which is about leaving a legacy of love. It's the legacy channel. It's actually about it's called the marrying maiden, but it's really this energy of ambition for the purpose of a better future for the tribe, for the community. But the energy, it can't get up to your throat with other people. So then when you get in the presence of someone, like if they have the 57, like I do, boom, your voice becomes activated. Or if you meet someone with the 31, the 8, or the 33, the 7, 1, and 13 get activated. Now, these are all leadership energies. You're a leader. There's 5 leadership channels and you've got 3 of the major, actually this one is an activation too. This is part of leadership. So out of those 5 leadership channels, which is 10 gates, you have 4 gates and you have them multiple times. They repeat. So leadership is a huge deal. And what are you leading people to? You're leading them into their purpose. You're leading them in the right direction. You're leading them into their creativity. The 1 gate is the artist. Doesn't surprise me, right? The artist, you're an artist. So all of this hanging energy is looking for the other to click in. However, you have another channel up here, the 6124. Now 61's in red. So gates in red come from the design side, and you happen to have 61 in Venus. Now, Venus is about love and romance and intimacy. And on the design side, it's like what matters to you in intimacy in your own life. Well, what matters to you is solving the inner mysteries of love. And line 3 is material world 3D intimacy, love, sex, romance, connecting with another person. So what's driving you in the romantic sense, in the intimacy sense, is what is this inner mystery called love? What is it? And it's driving you, and you have the whole channel. It connects right to the 24, and you have the 24 in Venus. Can't even make this up. Come on now. That doesn't always happen. I mean, 24 could have been somewhere else in your chart, but it's also in personality Venus. So just to back it up a little here, the personality, which is our persona, and it's designed to help us connect with the other person. Whatever's in that personality chart is what we can focus on to develop a personality that will bring in the correct people. So I'm always telling my clients, don't have a shitty personality. Carnegie was right. You've got to win friends and influence people. It's important to be liked. It's also important to not do things to be liked, but to be your true self. Our persona isn't our true self. It's a mask for the other. The design is the true self, and it's the physical body, and it just lives the life. It doesn't need your mental interference. It just makes your life unfold automatically. It's a program that runs. So your 61 shows up here. It also shows up in your design sun. So now you get a double whammy. You got 61 twice there. And when it's in your design sun, what keeps you healthy, I can't even make this up, is speaking to the masses about the inner mysteries of love. That's what keeps you healthy. Doing podcasts, speaking, coaching.
Right.
Sharing, and it's line 5, it's the heretic. So it's a heresy. You're not saying the status quo line. And then 24 over here, personality Venus, this is how you connect with the other in your work. I kind of think of the personality as our work self and the design as our private self. So in your private life, you're wanting to have this deep, deep intimacy with someone and go on like this mysterious journey. But in your work, you're helping people break repetitive patterns.
Yes.
So they can have a realization of something new. And you also have gate 42, which is ending a cycle. Now, this is a big deal. When I say ending a cycle, I don't just mean ending a pattern in your life, in Jeffrey's life. I mean shifting a toxic pattern or an unhelpful pattern for humanity, for the collective, because it's in the collective circuitry, gate 42. The chart deals in 3 levels: individual, tribal, and collective. And I won't get into all that now. That's a whole month-long class. But
Sure.
suffice to say, when I look at someone's chart, I can see the balance of tribal, individual, and collective. And you have a really nice smattering of all three. So your collective sense is, I want to change these patterns for humanity, right? On a personal sense, you are mutating through art. You are bringing innovation through creativity as an individual. That's your individual contribution. And on the tribal level, you're bringing people together through devotion, boundaries, completing toxic cycles and starting healthy ones, and sacred sexuality, and like that. That's pretty much what you're doing. And having the right team around you, having the right resources, and most of all, the abundance of spirit, which is gate 55. And the abundance of spirit says, if I feel my feelings, I find my truth. And the purpose of feeling our feelings is pleasure, creativity, and connection. That's what feelings are for: pleasure, creativity, and connection. And that is what you are doing. And I will leave you with this thought, two thoughts. Your 3-5 profile, it's the lines in your personality, sun and earth, and design sun and earth, 3-5. The 3 is the strategist. That's what you are. And the 3 likes to meet with people one-to-one for that intimacy, because 3 is 3D. The third line, it likes intimacy. It likes connection with the other. And then when you connect with someone, you bring the heresy. The heretic is the 5. The 5 is the leader. It's 5D. 5D. People are like, we're going 5D. I'm like, 5D is sound, get a grip. But 5D is the only thing that mutates us. And the reason we're going 5D is that people are finally finding their individual voice. You and I have our own voice. That's why when you and I talk, people are like, what? Say what?
Right.
Like you and I could be reading the phone book and people are getting a transmission because we've cleared our bullshit. We are ourselves. Yeah, are we perfect? No. Do we have issues? Sure. But we are pretty much deconditioned. And so we're who we are. And when people hear that voice, they go, oh, I want some of that. I want to be actualized. I want my own voice. Jeffrey can help me. Beth can help me, because we found our voice. Finding your voice is the linchpin. You have to be able to speak your feelings, right? Speak your truth, set your boundaries.
Right.
So you are that. And ultimately, you're a projector. And the projector type is 21% of the population up here in the summary. And I'll stop the share. Projectors are here to guide the rest of us. You're the true leaders, and you're also the newest type on the planet. So you're the newest mutation of human. So projectors aren't really sure how to be projectors yet, because it's a new form.
Right.
And humanity hasn't realized that we have you as a resource yet to guide our energy, particularly generators, that's me, and manifesting generators, because I'm a squirrel. I run around like this, man. And a projector comes along and is like, hey, Beth, can I ask you some questions? And your questions help my energy get organized so that I can be more fulfilled.
Yes.
So Jeffrey, we will put in the show notes how people can reach out to you. We've got your links. Is there anything you want to share with the audience before we wrap up? Final words of wisdom.
I mean, my final words of wisdom would be, breathe, take a moment and feel, and then connect.
And so be it. I want to come visit you in Mexico.
Please.
I'm thinking it would be really fun. Maybe we could even do a collaborative retreat. I'm sure our listeners are going, yes, please. I'll work with the women, you work with the men, and then we'll mix it up.
That'd be great. I would love that.
That'd be great. Well, you're a delight. I hope to have you back on the show. Thank you for all you bring, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
welcome.
This has been great.
All right, everyone. This has been another episode of Aligned to Your Design. See you soon. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Aligned to Your Design. If you did, please grab my free report, Business by Design, at yourpurpose.com, and then join our Facebook group, Align to Your Design. See you next time.